The Valara sky was alive with soft, pulsing lights, like tiny lanterns dancing in the darkness. Each flicker reflected on the leaves of the enormous trees, their branches stretching high into the sky. Captain Elias Kane stepped carefully along the uneven ground, his boots crunching on the luminous moss that carpeted the forest floor. The air was thick with the scent of alien blooms, sweet and sharp all at once. Kane had walked through many worlds in his life, seen countless stars and battles, but Valara had a quietness he had not expected. It was alive but not dangerous. Not yet. He paused for a moment, adjusting the strap of his pack. The humans with him were setting up their temporary base nearby. They had come to Valara to explore, to study its life, and, if possible, establish peaceful contact with the planet's inhabitants. But Kane knew better than to underestimate this world. Scars ran across his arms and chest beneath his uniform. Each one was a memory, a story of survival and pain, a mark left by wars fought on other planets, wars he would rather forget. He had learned long ago that scars told people more than words ever could, though he rarely spoke of them. From behind a thick trunk, a pair of curious golden eyes watched him. Lyria, a young Thalrian girl, crouched low, her four-limbed body balanced perfectly against the rough bark. Her skin shimmered faintly in the glow of the forest, blending almost seamlessly with the surroundings. She had never seen a human before, only heard stories whispered by her elders about their strength and cruelty. Her people feared them, feared their hunger for conquest and the destruction they brought wherever they went. And yet, something about this human intrigued her. Kane knelt near a fallen branch, inspecting the damage it had suffered during the recent storm. He murmured to himself as he worked, careful and deliberate. Lyria tilted her head. The way he moved, his gentle touch as he cleared debris, was nothing like the violent humans her people had described. He was patient, careful with the smallest details, and strangely respectful of the forest. She stepped closer, her curiosity getting the better of her fear, and finally a small twig snapped under her foot. Kane's head snapped up, eyes immediately scanning the shadows. His hand went to his side, resting on the grip of his tool rather than a weapon. He had faced threats before, but this was different. Something alive was watching him, not attacking, just observing. "I know you're there," he said quietly, his voice steady but calm. Lyria froze. His words were strange, not commanding, but accepting. It was not fear he projected, but understanding. Slowly, she stepped into the faint light, revealing her form. Kane's eyes widened slightly, but he did not move aggressively. Instead, he gave a small nod. "You're a Thalrian," he said, almost as if confirming something he already suspected. "I've heard stories." Lyria's forearms twitched nervously. She had been trained to retreat at the first sign of a human, but something about this one was different. She noticed the scars along his arms and chest as he leaned forward to examine a broken branch. They were long, deep, and jagged, some faded, some fresh. She had never seen marks like them before. Her people feared humans because they were fighters, survivors of wars that spanned galaxies. But seeing these scars, seeing the evidence of what he had endured, stirred something new inside her. "Why are you here?" she asked finally, her voice cautious but curious. Kane looked up slowly, meeting her gaze. "We're explorers," he replied. "I mean no harm. I want to learn about your world, your people. And I hope we can do that together without conflict." Lyria's head tilted. No human she had heard about had ever spoken like this. They were supposed to be loud, demanding, dangerous. And yet this one spoke gently, almost with care. I don't understand," she admitted. "My people, they say humans destroy what they touch." Kane nodded, his eyes softening. "Some humans do, but not all. I've fought battles, yes, Seen destruction, yes. But I've learned something important. Survival isn't just about strength. It's about respect, about protecting what matters. That's why I am here. For a long moment, Lyria studied him, her instincts warring with the tales she had been told. The scars on his body were undeniable proof that he had faced danger, that he had survived things most could not imagine. But they were also proof of resilience, endurance, and perhaps even wisdom. He had survived the things her people feared most, and yet he stood here, calm, observing, learning. "You have survived much," she said softly. Kane gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. "Yes, and every scar tells a story. Not of glory, but of lessons learned. Pain teaches you to value life." Lyria's curiosity overpowered her caution. She stepped closer, her movements careful, watching his every gesture. Kane noticed, but did not flinch. There was trust in his stillness, and Lyria felt a strange pull, a desire to understand him beyond fear. "Will you tell me?" she asked. Kane hesitated. Sharing the story of his scars was not easy. They were reminders of loss, of pain, and of battles fought on distant worlds. But there was something in Lyria's eyes, curiosity, honesty, and a lack of judgment that made him consider it. "I will," he said finally. He began slowly, recounting the battles he had survived, the worlds he had seen destroyed, and the moments when he had lost friends. He spoke not with anger or pride, but with the quiet dignity of someone who had faced life's harshest tests and learned from them. Lyria listened intently, her mind racing. The humans were not monsters, not blind destroyers. This one, at least, was different. Hours passed, and the sun of Valara began to sink, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet. Kane finally leaned back, exhausted but calm. Lyria remained beside him, her mind buzzing with new understanding. Fear was still there, deep within her instincts, but it was joined by something unfamiliar: respect. "You survived what my people feared most," she said finally. Kane nodded, understanding her meaning. "Yes, and survival is not just about enduring pain. It's about learning from it, growing stronger, and choosing the right path despite it." Lyria's forearms twitched nervously as she processed his words. Her people had always spoken of humans as monsters, as beings whose very existence was a threat. But Kane's scars, his calm, and his words painted a different picture. Perhaps humans were not all fearsome conquerors. Perhaps they were capable of courage, honor, and wisdom. The forest around them grew quieter, the bioluminescent lights dimming as night fell. Lyria made a choice, small but significant. She would follow Kane, watch him, learn more. Not out of fear, but out of curiosity and a desire to understand. Kane, sensing her presence, gave her a small nod. "It's okay," he said softly. "You don't have to hide. If we are to learn from each other, trust is the first step." Lyria hesitated, then stepped fully into view. For the first time, she let herself be seen. Kane did not recoil, did not reach for a weapon. He simply observed her with quiet patience. "You are brave," Kane said finally. Lyria's eyes widened. Brave? She had been taught that humans were dangerous, that fear was the correct response. And yet, here was a human calling her brave. She felt a flicker of pride, a sense of possibility she had never known. The rest of the human crew, unaware of this encounter, continued their work nearby. Kane stayed with Lyria, speaking gently about the forest, about the importance of understanding other species, and about the choices that defined a person more than their battles ever could. Lyria listened, captivated. By the time the stars shone brightly overhead, Lyria felt a shift within her. The stories of humans were not lies, but they were incomplete. Kane's scars were not symbols of fear. They were symbols of survival, of lessons learned, of strength tempered by wisdom. "I will watch you," Lyria said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Kane nodded. "I will not hide from you, and perhaps in time we can learn from each other." As the night deepened, the bond between the human and the Thalrian girl grew quietly, unspoken but undeniable. Lyria realized that fear was not the only path. Understanding and courage could lead to a new way of seeing the universe. Kane, in turn, recognized a spark of curiosity and intelligence in the alien girl that could bridge the gap between their worlds. The forest around them seemed to breathe, alive with unseen creatures and whispered secrets. And in that moment, under the glow of Valara's strange lights, a human and an alien girl began a story that neither fully understood yet, but one that promised survival, courage, and the possibility of unity across worlds. The first night passed without incident, but both Kane and Lyria knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with challenges and mysteries, and trust was fragile. Yet, for the first time, Lyria saw a human not as a threat, but as a survivor, a living testament to resilience, courage, and hope. The morning light filtered softly through the towering trees of Valara, casting long patterns across the forest floor. Lyria watched from her hidden perch as Captain Elias Kane and his crew moved among the humans' temporary camp. Unlike the chaos she had expected, there was careful order to their actions. Every human seemed to know their role, working together with precision. Lyria noticed how Kane's presence influenced them, how the others looked to him not with fear but with trust and quiet respect. Curiosity drove Lyria closer. She crouched in the shadows, her 4 arms tensing as she watched him tend to a wounded animal that had wandered into their camp. Kane gently examined the creature, murmuring soft words as he cleaned a torn limb. Lyria's breath caught. Humans, according to her people, were destroyers. They were supposed to harm and conquer without hesitation. Yet here was Kane, showing tenderness, skill, and patience. Each movement was deliberate, careful, and respectful. Unable to contain her curiosity, Lyria stepped closer, moving quietly between the trees. A dry leaf snapped beneath her foot. Kane's head turned immediately, but this time he did not tense or draw a weapon. His eyes found her in the shadows, calm but observant. "You're coming closer," he said gently. Lyria froze, unsure whether to retreat or stay. His voice was not harsh, not threatening. It carried a calm understanding that unsettled her more than it reassured. I want to see," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. Kane nodded. "It's all right. Watch. Learn. You do not have to hide." The small animal made a pitiful sound, and Kane quickly wrapped it in a soft cloth. He moved with care, avoiding hurting it further. Lyria felt something stirring inside her, respect, wonder, and a growing sense of curiosity that defied the fear her people had instilled in her. She realized that Kane's scars, the marks of battle on his body, did not make him cruel or dangerous. They were evidence of survival, of someone who had endured pain and emerged stronger, yet still capable of compassion. Over the next few hours, Lyria observed Kane interacting with his crew. He gave instructions calmly, always patient, and listened carefully to suggestions from the others. When a piece of equipment malfunctioned, he examined it closely, never blaming anyone, but guiding them toward a solution. Lyria noticed the subtle ways he earned respect, not by force or fear, but by example, by showing competence, courage, and care for life. She could not help but think of her own people. The Thalrians had been taught to fear humans, to see them as unstoppable predators. And yet Kane challenged everything she had been told. He survived what her people feared most, Not because of aggression, but because of wisdom, resilience, and the careful choices he made under pressure. Unable to resist, Lyria finally stepped fully into the clearing where Kane worked. His gaze met hers, calm and unwavering. "You've come to see, not to harm," he said, a small smile touching his lips. Lyria nodded. "I want to understand." Kane gestured for her to sit on a nearby rock. "Then watch, learn, and ask when you are ready. Curiosity is a good thing." She sat cautiously, keeping her eyes on him as he continued his work. He tended to small tasks around the camp, but always with attention to detail, always with care for the creatures and the environment. Lyria noticed how he approached the forest with respect, never damaging plants unnecessarily, never leaving litter behind. It was different from anything she had imagined humans to be. Eventually, she could not contain her questions. "Your scars. What happened?" she asked softly, pointing to the marks that crossed his arms and chest. Kane took a deep breath, his expression thoughtful. "These scars," he began, tracing a long mark with his finger. "Each one tells a story. Some are from battles fought on distant worlds, where survival meant making choices I did not want to make. Others are reminders of losses, friends and comrades I could not save. They are not badges of honor. They are lessons. Pain teaches you things you cannot learn in comfort." Lyria listened closely, her mind racing. She had always feared humans for their supposed strength and brutality. But now, hearing Kane speak with honesty, humility, and reflection, she felt a shift within herself. These scars were not symbols of danger. They were proof of endurance, of surviving the impossible, and of learning from hardship. "Your people. They fear humans because of war," she said quietly. "But you survived it. And yet you do not seek to harm us." Kane nodded. "Survival is not about hurting others. It's about protecting what matters, about learning from what life throws at you, and making choices that honor that experience. I have learned that strength without care is meaningless. True survival requires wisdom, courage, and respect." For a long moment, Lyria absorbed his words. Her instincts still whispered caution, but something deeper, something curious and hopeful, began to grow. She realized that fear was not the only path. There could be understanding, respect, and even trust between their species. Can humans and Thalrians," she started, hesitating. "Can we understand each other?" Kane's gaze softened. "Yes," he said. "If we are willing to try, to see beyond fear, and to respect each other's experiences, then we can understand, learn, and grow together. It will not be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is." Encouraged by his words, Lyria began to ask more questions about his life, his journeys, and the worlds he had seen. Kane spoke carefully, not sharing everything, but enough for her to grasp the essence of his experiences. He spoke of cities lost to war, of friends he had protected and lost, and of the lessons each scar had taught him. Each story deepened her respect and curiosity. Hours passed, and the sun climbed higher in the sky. Kane's crew called him to assist with setting up a new observation post near the edge of the forest. He looked at Lyria and gave a small nod. "Come if you want. You can see how humans work together to survive." Lyria followed silently, staying at a respectful distance. She watched as Kane coordinated his team, moving quickly but with thought, ensuring safety while remaining efficient. He explained tasks patiently, demonstrating how to analyze terrain, secure equipment, and maintain harmony with the environment. Lyria noted the contrast with her people, who often relied on instinct alone, reacting to danger with speed and caution, but without the layered understanding Kane exhibited. During a break, Kane crouched beside a small stream, inspecting the water. Lyria observed him closely. He dipped a container, testing the flow and clarity, muttering measurements under his breath. "Water is life," he said softly, noticing her presence. "If we cannot protect what sustains us, nothing else matters. Survival is not just about fighting, it's about understanding, observing, and nurturing life." Lyria's mind raced. This was unlike anything she had expected. Humans were not only capable of survival, but they were thoughtful, careful, and protective. The stories of destruction her people had told were incomplete. Cain was proof that humans could be honorable, wise, and compassionate. As the day wore on, Lyria continued to follow him, learning from observation and quiet conversation. She asked about the planets he had visited, the creatures he had encountered, and the conflicts he had survived. Cain answered with honesty, never exaggerating, never boasting. His words conveyed experience, humility, and strength. By the late afternoon, they reached a small clearing where Cain's crew was setting up a shelter for the night. He gestured for Lyria to sit with him. "You've seen enough to understand that humans are not a single story," he said. "Every person is different. We are capable of destruction, yes, but also of protection, learning, and cooperation. The choice is ours." Lyria nodded, feeling a growing determination. Her people had been taught fear, but she wanted to see the truth for herself. Cain's scars and his actions showed her a path beyond fear, a path of understanding and trust. As night fell, the camp glowed with soft lanterns. Lyria stayed close to Cain, not hiding anymore. He shared simple lessons about reading the forest, observing patterns, and respecting life. She listened intently, absorbing every detail, every nuance. Each word reinforced what she had already sensed. Humans could be more than the myths her people had created. When the stars appeared overhead, Cain looked up at them, his gaze thoughtful. Lyria followed his gaze, marveling at the endless points of light. "Do you ever wonder if the stars watch us the same way?" she asked quietly. Cain smiled slightly. "Perhaps, but I think they watch us to see how we choose, how we respond to challenges, how we treat life around us. Survival is more than enduring pain. It's making choices that matter." Lyria considered this. Her people had survived for generations, but much of their understanding of the galaxy was rooted in fear. Cain had survived much more, yet he moved through the universe with care, respect, and thought. The contrast was striking, and she realized that there was much her people could learn if they were willing to observe and understand. By the time the humans prepared to sleep, Lyria sat quietly nearby, her mind alive with reflection. She understood now that Cain's scars were not merely marks of battle. They were lessons, proof of endurance, and a guide for understanding life, survival, and courage. She had witnessed his strength and compassion, and it had left an impression she could not ignore. As sleep approached, Lyria curled up in the shadows, her thoughts still with Cain and the humans. She realized that fear could be overcome with observation, understanding, and trust. Cain had survived what her people feared most, and in doing so, had opened a path toward hope, learning, and unity. The morning on Valara began with a strange stillness. The usual hum of the forest was muted, and the soft glow of the bioluminescent plants seemed weaker than usual. Captain Elias Cain stood at the edge of the human camp, scanning the forest with a careful eye. Something was off. The air carried a faint metallic scent, and even the birds or creatures that resembled them remained silent in the trees. Lyria, hidden among the foliage, noticed the change too. Her instincts screamed caution, but curiosity kept her rooted in place. She had learned much from observing Cain over the past day, how he moved, how he observed, how he respected life around him. but the forest's quiet made her uneasy. Kane, sensing her presence, gave a small nod. It was an acknowledgement, a silent reassurance that he was aware she was watching, and that he would act if danger appeared. Suddenly, a loud cracking sound echoed through the forest, followed by a low, rumbling growl that vibrated through the ground. Kane's head snapped toward the sound, eyes narrowing. The humans around him began to stir, their movements quick and precise as they gathered in small groups, ready to respond. Lyria's forearms tensed. The sound was unfamiliar, yet dangerous. Something in the forest was approaching, something powerful. Kane moved toward the noise, his steps calm but deliberate. "Stay back, but watch," he instructed the humans, his voice steady, carrying authority without panic. Lyria, compelled by concern and curiosity, followed at a safe distance. She was determined to understand how Kane would respond. As they reached a small clearing, the source of the disturbance revealed itself. A massive predator, unlike anything Lyria had seen, emerged from the trees. Its body was covered in crystalline scales that reflected the dim light, and its eyes glowed with an intensity that made the heart race. The creature's movements were both graceful and terrifying, a perfect blend of beauty and lethal power. It let out a roar that shook the nearby trees, scattering smaller animals and startling the humans. Kane did not flinch. He assessed the situation quickly, observing the creature's movements, its patterns, and its likely intentions. He barked orders to his team, directing them to positions where they could protect themselves and minimize harm to the forest. Lyria watched in awe. Kane's scars, she realized, were not just reminders of past battles. They were evidence of someone who had survived countless dangers and learned to face threats with skill and thought. The predator advanced, and tension gripped the clearing. Kane raised his hand in a calming gesture, not toward the creature, but toward his team, signaling patience and control. The humans were trained for combat, yes, but Kane's leadership emphasized strategy, observation, and respect. He did not attack immediately. He waited, analyzing, calculating the safest way to protect everyone. Lyria noticed the creature pause, tilting its crystalline head as if assessing the humans. Kane slowly stepped forward, keeping his movements measured and non-threatening. "We do not wish to harm you," he called out, his voice firm but calm. "We mean no intrusion." The predator's eyes shifted to Kane, glowing brighter, but it did not charge. Kane continued to speak softly, his words carrying a strange authority that seemed to reach the creature in a way Lyria had never imagined possible. The humans watched silently, holding their ground, but ready to act if necessary. Lyria realized that Kane was not only confronting a physical threat, but also bridging a gap of understanding between species, showing that intelligence and courage could temper fear. Then, the unexpected happened. From the trees above, smaller predators began to descend, attracted by the disturbance. Kane did not panic. He quickly assessed their numbers, patterns, and likely behavior. "Form a circle," he instructed his team. "Protect each other, and keep calm." The humans moved into position, their training and Kane's leadership evident in every action. Lyria, sensing the danger, stayed close but cautious. Kane's calm presence was contagious. The humans' fear was replaced by focus, their movements precise and controlled. Lyria could see that Kane's experience had prepared him for moments like this, moments when survival depended not on brute strength alone, but on intelligence, courage, and calm decision-making. The predators tested the humans, circling and striking at the periphery. Kane observed, waiting for the right moment. He noticed a pattern. The predators were not acting out of malice but instinct, responding to perceived threats and opportunity. Kane used this knowledge to guide his team, directing them in a way that minimized harm to both humans and creatures. Lyria's heart pounded as she watched. She realized that Kane's scars, his survival through countless battles, had shaped him into someone who could face the unknown without panic, someone who could teach others to do the same. The stories her people had told of humans as merciless destroyers crumbled before her eyes. Kane's actions demonstrated strategy, patience, and respect, not recklessness or cruelty. Hours seemed to pass in a tense blur. The predators tested the humans repeatedly, but Kane's leadership held firm. Finally, he saw an opportunity. Using a combination of sound and movement, he guided the predators back toward the denser forest, away from the camp. The creatures hesitated, then retreated, leaving the humans and Lyria unharmed. The forest gradually returned to its quiet state, though tension still lingered in the air. Kane turned to his team, ensuring everyone was safe. "Check each other and the surroundings," he instructed. "We stay alert but calm. Survival is about careful choices, not fear." Lyria stepped closer, her eyes wide with admiration and new understanding. You survived it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "All of it." Kane gave a small nod, his gaze calm and steady. "Yes. And survival isn't just about facing danger. It's about learning, observing, and acting wisely. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it." The Thalrian girl felt a stirring within her. Kane's scars, his actions, and his calm in the face of danger were not marks of brutality. They were proof of endurance, wisdom, and courage. Her people had feared humans, yet here was one who had survived their worst fears without losing his respect for life. Over the next several hours, Kane and Lyria worked together to help the humans secure the camp and ensure that no harm had come to the forest. Kane explained why he had acted in certain ways, sharing insights into strategy, observation, and understanding predator behavior. Lyria listened intently, absorbing every detail, every subtle lesson. She realized that understanding and patience were as powerful as strength, and that true courage involved protecting others while facing danger. As the day wore on, Lyria began to act more confidently, assisting Kane in small ways. She helped identify signs of predator activity, pointed out unstable terrain, and even guided the humans around hidden dangers in the forest. Kane noticed her contributions and praised her quietly. "You've learned quickly," he said. "Observation is just as important as action." Lyria felt pride mixed with newfound respect for Kane. Her fear was replaced by admiration and curiosity. The human had shown her that survival was not about domination or destruction. It was about careful choices, courage, and understanding. His scars were symbols of experience, not threats, and they told stories of endurance, resilience, and the lessons he had learned through hardship. By late afternoon, the forest had regained its calm, though everyone remained vigilant. Kane gathered his team and Lyria near the edge of the camp. "Today was a test," he said quietly, his eyes scanning the forest. "Not just for the humans, but for anyone watching. Survival isn't just about fighting. It's about learning, adapting, and respecting life around you. Every choice matters." Lyria nodded, her mind brimming with thoughts. She realized that her people had taught fear without understanding, caution without observation. Kane had shown her a new way, a path of careful assessment, courage tempered with wisdom, and the ability to act decisively without cruelty. As night fell, the stars once again lit the sky above Valara. Kane and Lyria sat quietly together, reflecting on the day's events. "Your people fear humans because of war and destruction," Kane said softly. "But every human is different. Some bring harm, yes, but some, like us, strive to protect and understand." Lyria's eyes glimmered in the faint light. "I see now. You survived what we feared most. And you did it without destroying everything." Kane smiled faintly, the weight of his experiences visible in his eyes. Survival isn't about being the strongest or the most feared. It's about making choices that preserve life, learning from mistakes and guiding others to do the same. Courage is standing in the face of danger while still choosing the right path. For the first time, Lyria felt that fear could be overcome, that understanding and respect could replace suspicion. She had witnessed Kane's bravery, patience, and wisdom firsthand. His scars were no longer symbols of danger. They were symbols of endurance, of lessons learned, and of a future built on trust rather than fear. As sleep approached, Lyria curled up in the shadows near the campfire, her thoughts still with Kane and the humans. She realized that the galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but fear was not the only guide. Courage, observation, and careful choices could forge paths of understanding and cooperation between species. Kane had survived what her people feared most, and in doing so, he had shown her a new way to see the universe. The night on Valara was quiet, but the bond between the human and the Thalrian girl had grown stronger. Lyria knew that the challenges ahead would be many, but she also knew that with trust, courage, and wisdom, survival could lead to something greater than mere endurance. It could lead to understanding, respect, and perhaps even unity between worlds. The morning light on Valara was softer than usual, bathing the forest in golden hues that reflected off the towering trees and shimmering foliage. Lyria moved through the undergrowth with purpose, her eyes alert but calm. The events of the previous day weighed on her mind. She had witnessed Captain Elias Kane's courage, patience, and wisdom. She had seen how he led his team, faced danger without panic, and respected life even in the midst of threats. The Thalrians had been taught to fear humans, but Kane had shown her that fear was not the only path. Her thoughts were interrupted by the approach of the elders. They moved with a deliberate grace, their expressions a mixture of suspicion, concern, and curiosity. Lyria's heart quickened. She knew they had to see the humans for themselves, to understand that not all were destroyers as the old stories claimed. Yet she also knew that convincing them would be no easy task. Kane emerged from the human camp, scanning the forest for signs of lingering danger. His eyes caught Lyria's, and he nodded slightly. He understood her intentions without words. She stepped forward, motioning for the elders to follow her to a safe clearing. The Thalrian elders observed the humans from a distance, their expressions guarded. Kane approached slowly, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "We mean no harm," he said, his voice calm and measured. "We came to learn about your world, your people, and to share knowledge in return. We wish for understanding, not conflict." The elders exchanged glances, their instincts still warning them, but curiosity began to shine through. Lyria stepped forward, her voice firm but respectful. "These humans, they are not what we feared. Captain Kane has shown courage, wisdom, and respect for life. He survived dangers that my people feared most, yet he did not harm the forest or us." One of the elder Thalrians, a tall figure with deep blue markings on their skin, stepped forward. "Your words are bold, Lyria. Humans have brought war to worlds across the galaxy. Why should we believe one man represents all of them?" Kane met the elder's gaze calmly. "I do not claim to speak for all humans," he said. "Some have caused destruction, yes, but every species, every individual, has the choice to protect or destroy. My scars are proof of survival, not conquest. They remind me of the pain I have endured, the mistakes I have learned from, and the choices I must make to preserve life and harmony." The elders studied him carefully. They could see the scars, the evidence of battles survived, and the wisdom in his eyes. Kane did not project fear or arrogance. He projected experience tempered by care. Lyria noticed a shift in the elders' expressions, a mixture of respect, hesitation, and a growing willingness to consider a new perspective. "Show us," one elder said finally. "Show us what humans can do to protect, not destroy." Kane nodded. "With your permission, we will demonstrate." He directed his team to begin tasks that highlighted careful observation and cooperation. They repaired sections of the forest damaged by the previous day's predators, reinforced natural shelters, and worked alongside Lyria to ensure no harm came to the plants and animals. The Thalrian elders observed quietly, their skepticism slowly giving way to recognition. The humans' actions were precise, respectful, and thoughtful. Kane explained each step, demonstrating that true survival required understanding the environment, cooperating with others, and making choices that preserved life. Lyria watched him closely, her admiration growing. Kane's scars, once symbols of fear to her people, had become symbols of endurance, wisdom, and protection. Throughout the day, Kane and his team continued their demonstrations, guiding the elders through methods of observation, problem-solving, and environmental care. Lyria helped translate and explain the humans' intentions, bridging the gap between the two species. She noticed the elders' initial wariness gradually shifting toward interest, then toward cautious acceptance. By midday, a small group of Thalrians approached Kane directly. "We see your strength, your patience, and your care," one elder said. "You survived what we feared most. And yet you did not bring destruction. Your actions speak louder than words." Kane bowed his head respectfully. "Thank you. I hope that my actions today demonstrate what humans are capable of when we choose respect over recklessness, courage over fear, and understanding over assumptions." Lyria felt a surge of hope. This was the moment she had anticipated, the moment her people could see humans in a new light, not as monsters, but as allies capable of learning, teaching, and protecting. She stepped forward, her voice strong. "Captain Kane's scars tell a story, not of violence, but of survival, learning, and wisdom. My people must understand that fear alone is not the path to safety. Observation, respect, and courage guide us toward understanding." The elders were silent for a long moment, considering her words. Then, slowly, one by one, they nodded. Their expressions softened, their posture relaxed, and the tension that had lingered like a shadow over the forest began to lift. Kane smiled faintly, acknowledging the shift. "Trust is fragile," he said. "It must be earned through actions, patience, and understanding. Today is only the beginning, but it is a step toward cooperation and harmony." Lyria's heart swelled with pride and relief. She had acted bravely, advocating for understanding and bridging the gap between species. Kane's presence had shown her people that humans were not a single story of destruction. They were capable of honor, courage, and wisdom. The rest of the day passed with a quiet energy of collaboration. Thalrians and humans worked together to clear debris from the forest floor, reinforce natural shelters, and observe the wildlife with careful attention. Lyria moved confidently among them, her guidance helping the humans navigate the forest safely while teaching the Thalrians new ways to understand and observe their environment. By evening, the sun cast long shadows across Valara, and the forest glowed softly with bioluminescent light. Kane gathered the humans and Thalrians together near a small clearing where a gentle stream flowed. He spoke to both groups, his voice calm and inspiring. "Today we learned that survival is more than enduring danger. It is understanding, respecting, and protecting life. Courage is not just in facing threats, but in making choices that honor life and guide others to do the same." The Thalrians listened intently, their expressions thoughtful. Lyria could see the seeds of change taking root. The understanding that humans could be allies, that courage and respect could transcend fear, and that the universe offered paths of cooperation rather than conflict. One elder stepped forward, addressing Cain directly. "You have shown us something we did not expect. Your scars are proof of survival, yes, but also of wisdom. We see now that humans can be more than the stories told in fear. Perhaps together we can learn and grow, protecting this world and each other." Cain nodded solemnly. "I hope so. Every choice we make matters. Every action shapes the future. Let today be the first of many steps toward understanding, trust, and harmony between our peoples." Lyria felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She had witnessed the power of courage, patience, and careful choice. She had seen fear transform into understanding, suspicion evolve into respect, and distance turn into connection. Cain's survival, his scars, and his wisdom had opened a path not only for humans and Thalrians to coexist, but to thrive together. As night fell, the forest settled into a gentle rhythm. The stars shone brightly above Valara, reflecting in the flowing stream and illuminating the faces of those gathered. Lyria sat beside Cain, watching the humans and Thalrians interact, sharing knowledge, laughter, and stories. She realized that fear could be overcome, that understanding and trust could create bonds stronger than prejudice, and that courage guided by wisdom could lead to unity across worlds. Cain glanced at Lyria, his expression soft. "You've done well," he said quietly. "You helped them see what I cannot simply tell them. Your courage and insight made today possible." Lyria smiled, a sense of pride and purpose filling her. "I only followed what I saw. I learned from you. And now, I want my people to see what I see. That humans are not just fearsome. They can be allies, protectors, and teachers if we allow them to be." The night deepened, and the forest hummed with life. Lyria and Cain remained near the stream, speaking softly about the events of the day, reflecting on lessons learned, and planning for the future. They knew challenges would come, other dangers, misunderstandings, and tests of trust. But for the first time, there was hope. Hope that the scars of the past, the pain of survival, and the courage to make wise choices could guide not only individuals, but entire species toward understanding and harmony. In the quiet of Valara, under the gentle glow of bioluminescent trees and the stars above, a new chapter began. Humans and Thalrians, once divided by fear and ancient stories, now had a chance to walk a shared path, learning from each other, protecting life, and building trust. Lyria realized that survival was more than enduring hardship. It was about connection, understanding, and courage tempered with wisdom. Cain's scars were no longer reminders of danger. They were beacons of hope, guiding her and her people toward a future filled with possibilities. By the time the first light of dawn touched the forest floor, the bond between humans and Thalrians had grown stronger. Lyria looked at Cain, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "You showed us that fear is not the only way." Cain placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "And you showed your people that courage, observation, and respect can overcome fear. Together we can face whatever comes next, stronger, wiser, and united." The forest of Valara stood as a silent witness to the beginning of a new era. The humans had survived, the Thalrians had learned, and a young alien girl had discovered that understanding, trust, and courage could change everything. In a universe filled with danger, uncertainty, and mystery, the scars of the past had become the foundation for hope. As the day fully arrived, the forest buzzed with life once more. Cain and his crew prepared to continue their mission of exploration, now with the guidance and cooperation of the Thalrians. Lyria watched them, her heart full of purpose. She knew that fear had not vanished completely, but understanding had taken its place. The bond forged through courage, survival, and wisdom would guide them forward. And so, Under the ever-watching stars and the glowing canopy of Valara, a story of survival, respect, and unity reached a new chapter. The scars that once represented pain and fear now symbolized lessons learned, resilience, and hope for the future. A future where humans and Thalrians could walk together, protecting life and embracing the possibilities that lay among the stars.